Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fanfiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Hinata had just left the clan compound and was on her way to the special training ground she and Naruto had been using. Perhaps special was a bit of an exaggeration, but it was special because it was the training grounds that Naruto discovered his chakra arms. They had agreed to meet up and get a little practice in before they had to go to a mission meeting after lunch, so they were more or less killing time until then. As she walked to the spot, she noticed the blonde in question walking towards her. She smiled lightly as she sped up to meet him. Although she noticed something slightly strange, he was wearing a long-sleeved shirt. Naruto also noticed her and flinched as she approached, but he kept walking, preparing himself for the scolding he knew he was going to receive. Hinata looked at him suspiciously. "Why are you wearing long sleeves?" "It just felt like a wardrobe change," Naruto lied smoothly, but, like every time, Hinata knew he was lying. Hinata narrowed her eyes in disbelief and walked over to him, grabbed his arm, and rolled up the sleeve, seeing his injured and bandaged arm. What happened?" she exclaimed in surprise. She had never seen an injury on Naruto that lasted more than a few hours. Naruto took back his arm and sighed in registration. He knew he was going to have to explain it to Hinata, but he was reluctant to. Hinata was against Menma's very existence, and when she knew about the ass-kicking he gave him, then there would be hell to pay. "I bit off more than I could chew with Menma," he explained foggily. Hinata narrowed her eyes. "I thought I could handle 4 tails since I'd been beating 3 every time. Turns out the 4 tail causes some weird reaction because the next thing I know Menma looks like a black and red human fox thing and he's wiping the floor with me," Naruto explained in a careless tone, but there was an ounce of shame in his voice. After so many years of being able to master just about anything within months had given him an almost inflated sense of how strong he was. He wasn't arrogant like the bloody Uchiha, but he had begun to think he was a bigger fish than he actually was. So, in a weird way, he was thankful for Menma's reminder that he wasn't invincible. Hinata frowned in frustration, then concern. "I told you I didn't like you training with that thing. How long do you think it will take to heal?" Naruto sighed and examined his arm. "I can't say for sure. I'm entirely out of food, and until I'm able to get more nutrients in me, it won't heal." "It will heal, it just can't do it without the needed materials." Hinata looked at Naruto sadly. "You shouldn't steal it. Although, you could come over to the clan compound. I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem to feed you," she offered with a small smile. She couldn't remember the last time Naruto had come over to the compound. Naruto's eyes lit up brightly, the thoughts of a feast playing through his mind. "Really? Sweet." He grinned. So with that said, the two of them changed course to Hinata's home. In truth, the whole training thing had been a facade so they could hang out. That was their plan anyway. However, along the way, they ran into someone both knew well, and, one more than the other, didn't like. He was a teenager slightly older than Naruto and Hinata, with short black hair and dark green eyes, wearing the robes of a noble. He also happened to be unnaturally handsome for his age. This was Akira, the son of Byakuya, one of the members of the feudal lord's most inner circle. And, in Naruto's opinion, a profound jackass. Akira had encountered the duo once before, the reason being he had gone a date with Hinata, and not necessarily by her choosing. Hayashi had decided Akira would be a good candidate for Hinata to date and possibly marry. It would also engender the Hyuga clan to the feudal lord's inner court, giving them many other perks in addition. Of course, to gauge this idea, Hayashi had decided it would be best for Hinata and Akira to go on a few dates. Hinata, while not fond of the idea, knew what the implications of it would be and begrudgingly accepted. While Hayashi hadn't forced Hinata to go on another date with the black-haired teen when their first was botched, he was considerably angrier when he heard about it. He wouldn't press Hinata, but he was very annoyed with Naruto. Naruto, however, was not so gracious about the idea. Of course he wouldn't do anything so crude as to outright oppose the dating. No, he was sneaky about it. He pranked the two daters while they were busy, ranging from the simple pranks of buckets of water to repainting signs. Hinata did her best not to laugh. As Akira noticed the two of them, they bowed graciously, a sign of respect. Naruto-san, Hinata-chan, it's good to see you both again, especially you, my young beauty, Akira said with a charming grin. It's good to see you as well, Akira, Hinata said a bit flatly. While Akira was actually one of the more charming men she had been forced to date, she still didn't like him all that much. Due to the whispers of the shinobi, Hinata learned that Akira was a renowned pervert that charmed young ladies into sleeping with him before he leaves them in the dust. She had been disgusted when she found out because she knew that she was just another conquest for the teen. Naruto rolled his eyes as he crossed his arms. While his opinion of Akira was already low, the guy kept trying to flatter Hinata in bed and it was really starting to piss him off. Hinata had made sure that Naruto didn't know about Akira's nature because she feared for Akira's life if Naruto did. Akira looked over at Naruto, planning on addressing Hinata's friend but paused when he saw the white bandages peeking out of his sleeves. I see that you've been injured recently, Naruto-san, he observed. Naruto unfolded his arms and revealed more of the white bandage. Yeah, bit off more than I could chew with training, he said before a glint of mischief entered his cerulean blue eyes. You might want to start training a bit yourself. After all, the lifestyle of a noble isn't an active one, he commented as he eyed Akira's stomach. Akira deftly hid the twitch in his brow. I will consider your suggestion. Moving on to more important matters, it's quite nice that we ran into each other today. I was hoping you would join me today, Hinata. Just the two of us. Hinata smiled kindly. I would love to, unfortunately Naruto and I have other matters to deal with first, she replied. Akira sighed defeated. I see. Well, it just would have been nice to spend my last day in the village with you. But I suppose you have your own things to deal with, he said in a disappointed tone. Hinata repressed a sigh for she knew what she had to do. I suppose I have some time, she said softly as she sent Naruto an apologetic look. If she didn't leave on a good note with Akira, then it would mean trouble for Naruto due to her father. Making a 180, Akira responded, lovely. Naruto grumbled in annoyance as the two of them left. Smirking defiantly, he then leapt up to the rooftops. As Hinata and Akira made their way through the village, or rather Akira, was unaware of the shadow that trailed them, mostly leaving them alone. They neared a small shack that was selling novelty items and perused the selection. As Hinata looked over some of the items interestedly, Akira slowly reached out his hand to the side. However, before he could do anything, someone bumped into him. Momentarily groaning in annoyance, he turned to the person in question, an old man. I apologize, sir, are you hurt? The old man laughed weakly. Oh no, I'm fine, just lost my balance is all, the old man bowed, having recognized the fine clothing, and walked by, accidentally stabbing his cane into the top of Akira's foot. Akira released a muffled scream as the piece of wood stabbed into the top of his foot. Hinata turned to him worried. Are you alright, Akira? She asked, but she had a good idea what was going on. Akira laughed weakly as he trembled lightly. I'm fine, just rolled my ankle, he lied smoothly with a slightly forced smile. Hinata nodded and then turned to the old man as he ducked into an alleyway. A small grin tugging at her lips as she wondered what other tricks Naruto was going to pull. Throughout the day their date was tread upon. While walking through the streets, every time he'd try to hold her hand or make a move, either someone would bump into him or something would get thrown or dropped on him. He finally released an annoyed growl when he attempted to put his hand on her shoulder, and all of a sudden a sea of people parted them. Gah, he shouted in frustration. He was putting too much work into seducing Hinata and making very little progress. Hinata turned to him in confusion. Are you all right? Akira sighed defeated before collecting himself. Yes, I'm fine. I'm just frustrated at what deity is getting in our way. Hinata sighed as well before looking up and seeing Naruto laughing silently. Well, I think that's enough time wandering around the village. Why don't we make our way to a meal? Hinata flinched in surprise. Sorry? Akira raised an eyebrow. Are you all right, Hinata-chan? Hinata laughed uncomfortably. I'm fine. Yes, getting something to eat would be good. Akira nodded and the two of them made their way to one of the restaurants nearby, a high-class establishment of course. Naruto watched them go in and looked around, jumping down near the window and observed as they took a seat and ordered their food. "Hey boss," Naruto heard, interrupting his thoughts. Naruto blinked and then turned to the side. "Oh, Konohamaru," he said with a hint of surprise. He didn't see his student there. Naruto almost dismissed him but stopped and a sinister grin played at his lips as he looked down at his apprentice. "Hey, Konohamaru, wanna help me out with a ninja mission?" he asked, but he already knew the answer. Akira and Hinata sat in their seats when Hinata noticed two people enter the restaurant, Ebisu and his student Konohamaru. Akira noticed Hinata's curious gaze and turned around to see the two of them. "You know them?" Hinata nodded curtly and then redirected the conversation. As they walked in, Konohamaru questioned the purpose of their presence there. "Hey Ebisu-sensei, why are we in this stuffy place?" Ebisu adjusted his glasses snidely. "Simple, honorable grandson. While out in formal meetings with officials and other kages, it's likely you'll be involved with formal dinners. You should know the proper etiquette for such situations, as well as what the proper foods while meeting with other officials should be. It is required as Ebisu looked down then around shock when he noticed he was missing his charge, honorable grandson. Honorable grandson. Hey! Come on, let's eat already. Konohamaru shouted from a seat nearby. Ebisu sighed in frustration as he walked over. Honorable grandson, you shouldn't run and shout like that, it's unbecoming. Ah, shut up. I'm starvin'. Ebisu sat down in a huff as he and Konohamaru ordered their food. The next few minutes passed in relative silence until Ebisu noticed their server approaching with their food on his tray. Ebisu pointed to the server and recommended, "Why don't you be a good Samaritan and bring my soup over to me, honorable grandson?" Konohamaru huffed as he stood up. Stuffy jerk. Konohamaru sprinted over to the server and spoke with him momentarily before taking the soup and running back over to Ebisu, noodles and broth flopping around as he did. Ebisu stood up worried. No. Honorable grandson, don't dash. It was too late as Konohamaru tripped over his own feet, fell face first and sent Ebisu's soup flying, right into Akira's lap. Akira widened his eyes and shook his fist for a moment before calming down. He looked down at Konohamaru concerned. Pardon me, are you hurt? Konohamaru moaned as he sat up. Oh wow, you jerk. Pardon? You tripped me. I did no such thing. Jerk. Konohamaru then instantly threw a paint bomb at Akira's face, filled with pink paint that covered his hair, face, hat, and the top of his shirt. Konohamaru stuck out his tongue and ran off. Akira took several calming deep breaths and then turned to Hinata. Please excuse me while I wash this off, he said in a calm but flat tone. Never in his life had he been this humiliated. Hinata nodded with a smile as he walked off, laughing silently into her hand as he turned. Akira walked down a hallway towards the washroom. This is too bizarre. It's just like before. At least it's not the same putrid color. What pretty pink hair. Akira froze and turned around, Ebisu standing behind him with a proud smirk. Something I can help you with? Ebisu shrugged. Not particularly, though I think you looked better in orange, he said and left the washroom, but his voice did not sound like how it did mere moments ago in the dining room. It was a voice that Akira recognized even though he had heard it only a few times. Akira sighed and clenched his fists. I see how it is, Naruto. Ebisu and Konohamaru walked out of the restaurant and ran into an alleyway before they started laughing hysterically. Ebisu was enveloped in smoke, the smoke dissipating to reveal Naruto. Ha ha ha. That was great, Konohamaru, he exclaimed as he patted the boy's helmeted head. Konohamaru grinned happily at Naruto's praise. So I did good, he asked and got a nod from Naruto. Then teach me that genjutsu you used on the real Ebisu team. Konohamaru demanded. Naruto rose an eyebrow as he debated teaching a child such a technique. Okay, he said as he decided. The laughs Konohamaru would bring would be worth the stain on his conscience. Konohamaru jumped with joy. Not only did he get to learn a badass jutsu, but he could rub the fact that he had pranked with boss in Hanabi's face. The next morning, Naruto, Hinata and Kiba arrived at their training ground along with Kakashi to get their goals for the day. "So, are we finally getting something done today, sensei?" Kakashi laughed in amusement. "Yes, Kiba, we are. In fact, we'll be heading to the Hokage's tower to get our newest mission momentarily. I've even picked the perfect mission beforehand." Team 7 arrived at the Hokage's office minutes later and stood in the middle of the room as they waited to be assigned their mission. Team 7 reporting in 4-. Kakashi started but was stopped by a raised hand from the Hokage. Hiruzen leaned back in his chair and inhaled tobacco before letting out in the form of a sigh. "Your team has been requested for a mission," he informed in a resigned tone. Kakashi's eye narrowed in confusion. While it wasn't uncommon for a team or ninja to be requested for a mission, he himself had been requested 6 times this week, but it was highly uncommon for a genin team. Team 7 hadn't even been together for a month yet and they had been requested? There was the possibility that someone they did a D-ranked mission for had been impressed with their work, but judging from the Hokage's posture he could guess that wasn't the case. "What's the mission?" the gray-haired ninja asked and caught the scroll that the Hokage tossed at him. Kakashi read the scroll within a minute and hummed to himself. The mission was a little high profile for a C-ranked, but nothing outrageous. They would be escorting a VIP to the capital, so about 2 or 3 days at civilian speed. They'd also be guarding the servants the VIP would be brining. While that sounded fine, even better than the mission he had planned on taking, he saw why the Hokage was reluctant to give it to them. He could practically already see the friction between his team and the client. We'll take it," Kakashi said lazily as he tucked the scroll into his pocket. He decided that this would be a good learning chance for his cute genin, that you won't always like who you're guarding. The Hokage rose an eyebrow. "Are you sure, Kakashi? I know your genin are well trained, but I would normally send a team of chunin for this kind of mission," Hiruzen said. While the mission was technically a C-ranked, the VIP was the son of a very important man in the capital. There was a low chance of shinobi involvement, but Hiruzen never liked taking those chances. Kakashi nodded. "I'm sure, they can handle it." Hiruzen sighed again but decided to take Kakashi's word for it. "So be it. Bring in the client." The doors opened as the client walked in. All of the genin, judging by the conversation they just heard, were expecting a princess or an important noble. Instead, they got Akira. Akira put a hand on his forehead in frustration when he saw Naruto's blonde mop of hair. "Of course you would be on her team," he muttered before moving over to Hinata, grabbing her hand gently. "But if it means that I have someone of your caliber protecting me, I am willing to suffer through it." A sinister grin played at Naruto's lips before he said, "You're right, you do need someone protecting you," he said before he grabbed Akira's arm and Kiba's. Both boys gave a cry of surprise and annoyance before both their hands were enveloped in blue chakra. Akira gave a shout of shock, temporarily forgetting his years of training to control his emotion, and tried to pull his hand away as Kiba did the same. However, their hands only managed to get about 6 feet away before they couldn't get further away. "What the hell is this?" Kiba yelled as he gave the line of chakra that connected his hand to Akira's a hard yank, causing him to fall on his face. Naruto grinned. "Too troublesome to explain, but think of it as a handcuff. You can only go so far away from each other unless certain requirements are met or I cease the jutsu," he said, causing Akira and Kiba to glare bloody murder at him. Kiba could already tell this guy was a total jerk, and the thought of having to spend extended amounts of time with him did not appeal to Kiba in the slightest. Akira, on the other hand, wanted the jutsu to stop not only because Kiba smelled like wet dog, but how was he supposed to seduce Hinata now? Hinata and Kakashi watched the scene with amusement while daggers were being stared into an uncaring Naruto. Hiruzen pulled his hat down in frustration. "I really don't think this is the team for the job." "No." Akira voiced his disinterest. He then cleared his throat and said more gracefully, "I believe they are plenty qualified for my protection." Kakashi nodded in agreement. Plus it might be a nice, learning experience for the team. Hiruzen sighed deeply. "Fine," he said, but he couldn't shake the bad feeling he had about this mission. As the group left, Kakashi told Akira to make his way to the west gate for their departure. Due to Kiba's and Akira's conjoined state, they had to leave together. Before Naruto and Hinata left to go take her up on the offer she made yesterday, Kakashi stopped Naruto. "Yo, Naruto, stay behind for a second," he asked, but it was a lightly veiled order. Naruto looked puzzled for a moment before he told Hinata that he'd catch up with her. "What's up, Nii-san?" Naruto asked as the two began to walk. Kakashi looked at Naruto lazily. "About your chakra handcuff, do I need to worry about that?" "After all, not everything goes according to plan on a mission like this," he said. As amusing as it wasn't worth the risk of their client dying for a few giggles. Naruto smirked. "Nope, since it's my chakra, it responds to my will. I've placed a few requirements on it in case I'm not around when it needs to come off. If their heart rate accelerates above a certain point, then it'll just dissolve. It'll also dissolve when they want it to come off badly enough," he explained. Kakashi thought about it for a second before nodding. While he wasn't exactly all for Naruto pissing off a one-day important person, Akira already didn't like Naruto much to begin with. The team made their way to the front gate, waiting for Akira and Kiba and his servants to arrive there. Naruto was already annoyed since he didn't like the idea of servants but decided to keep it to himself. That is, until Akira and Kiba actually showed up. Naruto stared in disbelief. "Why, you gotta be kidding me," he muttered in disbelief. The reason was the cart Akira carried with him to transport all of his items. A massive cart twice as large as normal with a nearly 10-foot bag holding all of his things along with the actual carriage he rode in. His servants walking on the ground around him, carrying the things that couldn't fit in the carriage. Naruto felt that was unfair. The carriage stopped and Akira stuck his hand out. "Hinata, would you like to ride in the carriage with me?" Hinata shook her head. "No thank you. I will be better able to fight out here than in there." Akira sighed in defeat. "So be it." Naruto smirked and then Kakashi walked up to Akira. "So, have you gathered everything you need?" Akira nodded in the affirmative. "Good. In that case I say head out. At a civilian pace we should reach the capital in 3 days' time. Barring any interruptions." "Good, then let's go, my father will be eager to hear what I have to tell him." Kakashi blinked in curiosity but signaled to get on the way and the group began their long trek to the capital. The group had only been gone for a few hours when things started getting rough, or annoying from the point of view of a certain crow. The first reason was that Akira spent almost the entire time trying to get Hinata into his carriage. The problems also presented in Naruto spending most of the time trying to prevent that, from the devious, asking Hinata to help him investigate something, to the obvious of just jumping atop the carriage. It also didn't help that Kiba was already sitting with him since they couldn't more than a few feet apart. Things started to get a little tenser between Naruto and Akira later in the first day when Naruto noticed how the servants were starting to show signs of fatigue, not too surprising since they weren't trained shinobi and didn't have a chance to take a break that whole day since Akira had been able to eat his meal in the carriage and the leaf ninja had been trained to eat and walk at the same time. They need a break. Akira blinked in surprise and glanced down at Naruto. "Pardon?" "Your servants. They need a break," Naruto repeated. Akira looked at him puzzled. "And what would you know about my servants? Look at them, they're just fine. You should mind your own business. Though for someone as insecure as you that may be hard." Naruto rose a sarcastic eyebrow. "Insecure?" "Yes, insecure. Why else would you cling to Hinata-chan so? Why would you interfere in her affairs as if you were a jealous child?" Naruto opened his mouth to insult Akira but he was stopped by Kakashi. "Naruto!" Kakashi warned. Naruto glared at Akira before raising an eyebrow and channeled chakra from the bottom of his foot as he walked. Silently, a phantom blue hand emerged from the wheel before yanking off the hubcap and causing the wheel to slide off and the carriage to halt. Akira naturally shouted in surprise as he felt the jar. What on earth was that?" Naruto looked at the ground in full curiosity. Looks like it fell off. What fell off? Naruto pointed simply at the wheel. Akira sighed and motioned to his servants to take a break. A couple of the female servants smiled gratefully at Naruto. Kiba twitched an eyebrow. While the makeshift caravan took a break to wait for the carriage to get repaired, Naruto sat with Hinata eating a small meal he had prepared for them beforehand. As they ate, one of the servants came up to Naruto and bowed lightly. Excuse me. Would it be okay if I asked you something? Naruto nodded plainly in response. Well, why did you stand up for us like that? Naruto tilted his head in confusion. What do you mean? Oh, was I not clear enough? I meant did you try to get a break for us? Naruto raised an eyebrow in addition. I'm still confused. Why wouldn't I? It's obvious you guys are tired. The girl turned slightly pink before she looked at him mildly confused again. But why would you worry? We're just mere servants. Naruto groaned in frustration. That's irrelevant. You're people. You're humans who have limited amounts of energy and need to take a break now and then. That jerk has no right to push you to the point of exhaustion like that. The girl turned bright red along the cheeks before she bowed deeply. Thank you, Naruto-sama. Naruto blinked in curiosity. Sama? Kiba, having heard the conversation due to his sharp ears, looked at Naruto astonished before sighing deeply in frustration. Due to the time it took to repair the carriage, the group decided to set up camp at that spot for the night. Naruto seemed pleased with that even when he had been scolded by Kakashi. As they set up the camp for the night, Naruto went over to Hinata to ask her about something but felt confusion when she seemed evasive of him. Shrugging it off, he went back to work setting up the camp with the others. They got back to the trail the next day and continued the trek to the capital. Naruto, thanks to reasoning from Kakashi, had lowered his pranking behavior on Akira that day. Though he managed to help the servants some by offering them food, water and other items as they traveled. Naruto had even sealed what they were carrying into a storage scroll. Things got a little tenser in the middle of the second day. The reason is another caravan they ran into. It was a traveling trade caravan, which also happened to be full of attractive women. Naruto guessed that people would buy things easier if they bought it from a pretty face. Naruto easily noticed how Akira was 2 steps from drooling over the girls. Pardon me, Kakashi. Kakashi turned lazily to Akira. That caravan over there, they don't have any guards, do they? Kakashi raised an eyebrow and turned to look at the nearby caravan. They had a small collection of what seemed to be hired mercenaries. He shrugged. Nothing on the level of a shinobi, but something adequate. Akira rubbed his chin. But they are such a large caravan. With that many goods, they'd need proper defense. It's decided. We should link up with their caravan. As a son of one of the leaders of our great nation, it is my duty to protect all of the people traveling within its borders. Naruto groaned. It may extend the length of our trip, but I think it is an acceptable trade-off to keep the group of people safe. After all, it is merchants like them that keep our great nation stocked and supplied. Kakashi just watched lazily before shrugging again. Works for me. What? Naruto and Kiba protested. Naruto had to scrounge for food and he wasn't even sure it would last for another day. Kiba, on the other hand, didn't want to spend any more time attached to this tool. After adjoining with the new caravan, after talking to the leaders of course, Team 7 plus Akira's entourage had slowed down their pace greatly. As they walked at their slow pace, Naruto made his way over to where Kakashi was walking with a curious look. Hey, Nisan, how much longer is going to take now? Kakashi looked up and thought for a few moments before shrugging. Dunno. You'd probably have more luck with the leader of the caravan. Naruto sighed in frustration and made his way up to the front where the man in question was walking. Naruto approached the man, a tall, red-skinned man with red-brown hair and green eyes. The man was as tall as a giant and just as intimidating. Though, his looks had little effect on Naruto considering his habit of calling some of the strongest men in the world rather rude nicknames. "Yo, Giant-Ozen." The man turned to Naruto with a smile. "Ah, you're one of those ninja, aren't you?" Naruto nodded. "What do you need?" "I'm just curious, how much longer do you think the trip will take, at this rate I mean?" The man put a hand on his chin in thought, rubbing his scruffy beard as he did. After a few seconds of humming he turned back to Naruto. "You said you're heading for the capital, correct?" Naruto nodded. "Then, it'll probably take a little under a week to get there at this rate." Naruto stopped dead and froze as the caravan walked past him, many of them confused. "A week? I'm going to starve to death by tomorrow," he thought in panic. How in the hell was he going to survive a whole week with only scraps? Akira's carriage moved past Naruto and Akira looked at Naruto puzzled. "You should really get moving, Naruto, we don't need you holding us back any more than you are already." Naruto stood with a twitching eyebrow, mumbling. "Me? I'm the one, holding us back." Naruto took in a deep breath and then exhaled. He clenched a fist. "Even if you are the client, if I go cannibal then you're the first one I'm eating." However, friction began to grow between Naruto and Akira, and in this instance, Naruto was completely oblivious to it. As they walked down the dirt path slowly winding their way to the capital, the girls in the group merely chatted amongst each other and their new shinobi helpers along with Akira and his servants. Naruto had been selected to take point in the new formation, Hinata staying at the rear to monitor the caravan and the space around it with her Byakugan, Kakashi in the middle so he could react swiftly. As he looked around the area he occasionally looked behind him as well to keep an eye on things. Kiba and Akira were both in the middle as well. That's where the most valuable cargo was along with Akira's carriage. After a while he noticed one of the servants was beginning to sweat and stumble, His Highness not noticing. Naruto created a signless shadow clone beside him and ran back to the stumbling man in the formation. "You alright?" The man looked at him weakly and gave an equally weak smile. Hey, I'm fine." He trailed off at Naruto's disbelieving stare. "I could use a drink of water though." Naruto nodded, unsealed a small bottle of water and handed to the man. He nodded in great gratitude and gulped down the water swiftly. He then flinched and looked at Naruto apologetically. Naruto smiled. "It's alright. I've been trained to go for a lot longer without water than a civilian. Besides," he then flashed his trademark grin, "I wouldn't get paid if you guys didn't make it one piece." Kiba and Akira then paled as several of the caravan girls, one with short black hair, one with long green hair, one with waist-length blue hair and one with blonde hair, nearly fainted at Naruto's comment. "So cool." Naruto gave them a curious look but dismissed them as weirdos. Akira twitched an eyebrow. That bastard." Naruto just raised an eyebrow. Another similar incident occurred later on. One of the caravan girls, a young woman with long brown hair, walked up to Akira with a plate of fruit. "Pardon me, lord, would you like some fruit?" Akira looked down at the girl and smiled. "Of course, my dear. I would gladly accept food from you. It is kissed by the sun itself." The woman smiled at his praise and then walked up to Naruto as well. "Here, would you like some?" Naruto nodded and then reached into his pocket. "Sure, how much?" The woman raised an eyebrow. "Nothing. You agreed to give us your aid in our travels for free. In return, you needn't pay a thing." Naruto waved his hand dismissively. "That's dumb. I still need to pay you. I doubt you got those for free. Besides, a few ryo for a juicy apple you spent your time getting or growing is nothing." The woman smiled happily and then handed Naruto 2 apples. "If you truly must know, it'll be 7 ryo." Naruto nodded and handed the money to the woman. Using his current savings he bought the entire bushel and ate each one of them in one bite. Some he swallowed whole. "So cool." Naruto's fangirls wailed but he ignored them. While he did think that they were acting similar to the team's fangirls, he dismissed that notion. The thought of random people liking him for no real reason simply didn't register for him when he could count the people who have ever liked him on one hand. Kiba growled in annoyance and Akira crushed his apple with his hand. Later that same day, the caravan stopped to set up camp. Naruto noticed how the caravan riders and the servants were beginning to set up the camp. He walked over to one of the head servants of the group. He tapped his shoulder to get his attention. "Hey, I'll take over." The man looked at him puzzled and then smiled. "No, it's all right. Besides, it'll take all of us." Naruto grinned and with a wave of his hand, 40 copies of himself. As the caravan gaped at the display, Naruto said, "Leave the tent to me." He grinned before he started. The servants and members of the caravan looked in surprise as the 41 Narutos went through and put up the tent. Naruto's fangirls were silent this time. That was due to them fainting from blood loss as they imagined what other thing Naruto could do with his clones. Later on, after setting up the tents, Akira was sitting around the fire putting his well-crafted moves on the girls of the caravan. Kiba practically wanted to vomit listening to the tool's pathetic lines. That's not to say he wasn't trying to get some attention himself. He had managed to charm a few girls with the help of Akamaru. As their discussions continued, Akira sighed in contentment and looked up at the stars with a smile. "You know, ladies, people should try more often to be like the stars." A couple of the girls looked at him confused. "What do you mean?" Akira flashed a handsome smile and answered, "Simple, the stars are up in the sky, existing together, acting as one entity despite being separate beings. Providing light to the world below and to each other, being so close and connected as one moving body." The girls all cooed at his statement. Naruto huffed in annoyance as he manned the fire. "Don't kid yourself." Akira looked at Naruto annoyed. He then smirked and offered Naruto a challenge he was sure the blonde would fail. "Oh, and what do you mean by that?" Naruto narrowed his eyes at Akira. "What I mean is, don't let appearances fool you. The stars may look so close together from here, but if you get up close you'll see that each star is just floating alone by itself in the sky. The stars may be with each other in that large pool of the sky, but they're all completely alone, isolated from one another, just like people." Akira looked at the blonde incredulously, and then shook his fist as the girls gasped at the blonde's statement. The same group of girls looked at Naruto starry-eyed. "So cool." Naruto just ignored them with a frown as he tended the fire. Hinata was given the first watch that night and she sat on a tree overlooking most of the forest when she heard someone behind her. She heard whoever was behind her a while ago but pretended not to notice until they were near. Pust. Hinata turned and saw one of the caravan girls, the one with curly blonde hair, behind her, in the tree. She looked down at the ground and then at the girl. How did you get up here?" "Branches." "Oh. Do you need something?" Hinata asked in confusion. The girl nodded and then looked down with a slightly embarrassed look. "I was hoping to ask you about him." Hinata blinked and then raised an eyebrow in understanding. "Oh, you mean Naruto," she said a bit flatly as she pushed down a wave of jealousy. While Hinata was getting jealous by all the attention Naruto seemed to be receiving from the female population, she dismissed it in favor for being happy for her friend. He was so used to receiving negative attention from the village she thought it was good for him to be liked by the majority for a change. The girl nodded and then scooted up to Hinata's side. Yeah, him." Hinata frowned lightly but then shook her head to clear it. "What do you want to know?" "Oh, just simple stuff. Like what's he normally like, what's he like to eat, who are his parents?" Hinata narrowed her eyes at that last question but then sighed and answered simply and in order, "Food is Naruto's favorite thing, it doesn't matter what kind but he likes ramen the best." She started and was surprised when the girl started taking notes. "Naruto's is laid back but he's very protective of some things. He can also be a little distant at first but once he gets to know you he won't be." Hinata paused in thought as she debated how to answer the last question. "About Naruto's parents, well, I don't know. And neither does Naruto since he's an orphan. The girl blinked in confusion. An orphan, you say? Oh, that must have been so hard for him. Hinata nodded. It was. He was very lonely and had something terrible happen to him. After that he had trouble making friends, but he made more friends in the past year and now he's not lonely anymore. The girl smiled at Hinata slyly. Do you consider yourself one of his close friends? Hinata blinked in confusion and then turned red when she understood the meaning. She pressed her fingers together abashedly before she managed to eke out, well, yes, friends at least. She then turned to the girl again. You wanted to know a few other things, didn't you? The girl nodded and she and Hinata spent a majority of the night discussing different topics, most of them centering on Naruto. The next morning Naruto awoke with a groan and sat up slowly. He stretched with a heavy yawn before getting up out of his sleeping bag. He narrowed his eyes as he heard a commotion nearby. Walking over to investigate, he saw the caravan plus the others all standing around, seemingly in the middle of packing up, with two of the girls shouting at each other. He hummed in annoyance as he made his way over to the group. He looked up at Kakashi and asked, Hey, what's going on? Kakashi shrugged. Can't say really. To me it looks like those two are fighting over something. Not sure what, but it seems like one of them stole something from the other. Naruto was dissatisfied with Kakashi's response and turned back to the quarrel. After a few moments he decided he'd had enough and briskly walked into the middle of it. Hey! Hey, cut it out! The two girls groaned at him, a small amount of killer intent shutting them up. He frowned at them in frustration. So just what the hell's going on here? The two girls folded their arms in a huff. One then pointed at the other accusingly. Yumi over here stole my special hairpin and refuses to give it back. The other girl glared at her and argued, and I already told Mayu that she dropped it on the path earlier yesterday. Yeah, right. I'm not so stupid as to do that. Everyone knows you're jealous of me. And preventing me from pulling up my perfectly combed hair is just another to show it. Please, you're just a stuck-up bitch. I have no concern of your stupid hairpin. Naruto grumbled and formed a shadow clone, sending it to retrace the path they had walked. He then turned to the girls and attempted to break up their fight again. Listen. I just sent a shadow clone up the path to find the hairpin. He should be back in a few minutes. If he finds it, then you need to apologize to her. Yumi gave a proud huff. Naruto turned to her with an equally frustrated expression. But if he doesn't find it, then you'll need to help search for it or hand it over if you have it. Both girls stepped back and looked down with sullen expressions at Naruto's orders. Kakashi just looked at Naruto in awe. I never thought that could be done. After a few more minutes, the shadow clone returned and prepared to inform Naruto of its findings until it noticed something out of the corner of its eye. It turned and saw Akira holding a long metal pin with an ornate head in his hand that he was using to punch holes in pieces of cardboard to make designs. It gave a suspicious frown and walked over to Akira. Oi, where'd you get that? Akira raised a disgruntled eyebrow. Why does it matter to you? Just answer the question. I saw it lying on the road yesterday and had one of my servants hand it over. The clone got a deceitful glint in its eyes. After a few more seconds, the clone rounded the corner, dragging Akira, and in effect Kiba, by his ear, grunting in pain. Kakashi blinked in confusion. Naruto turned to the clone. What's up with this? The clone grinned. I found it. Prince Charming saw it lying on the road earlier yesterday and had one of his servants hand it to him. He's been using it to draw shapes in cardboard. Mayu widened her eyes in guilt about yelling at Yumi before something clicked, and she growled over to Akira and snatched the hairpin from Akira. Aha! She screamed as she examined the now bent and damaged tip. You jerk! She then immediately slugged him right on the top of the head. How dare you use my grandma's special, handcrafted hairpin as an etch? You jerk! Akira was almost in tears, in both pain and shock. Mayu then walked over to Naruto and bowed deeply. Thank you for helping me. This hairpin is extremely important to me. I don't know what I would have done if I lost it for good. Naruto just smiled warmly. Sure, but don't you have someone else to talk to? Mayu blinked in confusion before she flinched in recognition, walking over to Yumi. She looked at Yumi with a disgruntled expression, before it turned into an apologetic look. She bowed deeply and apologized. I'm so sorry, Yumi. I didn't mean to blame you for this, I was just angry and scared that it was gone. Friends? Yumi sighed and then smiled at Mayu, the two hugging. Friends. They both then bowed to Naruto. Thank you for your help. Naruto flashed his trademark grin. Not a problem. Kiba, Akira and Kakashi were practically agape. Akira and Kiba shook their fists in jealous rage. The blonde girl looked at Naruto with a smirk. Smooth operator you are. After that, the caravan picked up their supplies and began moving out, Naruto taking point. To Naruto's confusion and the jealousy of many of the men, Mayu and Yumi suddenly felt the desire to stick near the front of the caravan. Koga was a bandit. Not just any bandit, but he was the leader of a bandit tribe, but unlike other bandit tribes, his operation was much bigger than a meager dozen or so. No, his tribe had nearly 100 members. They used Koga's smarts to stay active. They never drew too much attention to themselves, and if they took a big score, then they made sure that it couldn't be connected to them. They thought they had been doing a good job of it too. That was until 7 shinobi showed up in their base. Koga swallowed thickly. So, why are you here exactly? He asked. He fought to keep a tremor out of his voice. Every ounce of intelligence he had was screaming at him that these people were dangerous. The leader of the group grinned as he held up a picture. A blue-eyed blonde was its focus.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.